Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to the final Geek Dad Report Season 7 Breakdown Spectacular.
Extravaganza.
We're throwing out all these big arms and exclamation points because we don't have an official name for the show yet. Maybe next season we will name the show. That is going to be everyone and our job in the off-season is to give this our Game of Thrones review an official title. But we'll talk about that later. I'm Brian West, and that's Ryan Tomlinson. And like I said, tonight we are going to be breaking down all things that was Season 7 of the greatest show on television, the Game of Thrones. And we may also do a little bit of Season 8 predicting if you guys are lucky. And you definitely are lucky because you're watching us. And we're very lucky that we rub off on people.
We were very consistent during Season 7. I did, I try not to tell people how great it was, but we got to brag. We were like 100 for 100.
Yeah, so. I mean, all our predictions came 100% true, except for a couple of them, but we won't talk about those ones, at least not tonight on this show.
Yeah, but those ones don't count because we have a very rigid grading system. We're heavily favored to our standards.
Let's just say if we were baseball players, we'd be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to leave it at that. As you guys may notice, Game of Thrones ended about 3 weeks ago. We intended on having this out much, much sooner, but alas, my wonderful co-host here was in the process of moving and had no interwebs, so we had to postpone the show.
Which is why I'm sitting against this lovely wall here, because my office is not yet complete. So.
Well, Ryan, unlike certain walls on Game of Thrones, at least that one is still standing.
Yes, very true.
But unlike the three-eyed raven, we are not going to be living in the past. We're going to talk about the present now. Obviously, we are talking all things Season 7 Game of Thrones. If for some reason you have not watched Season 7 yet and you have just stumbled on our show, this is a full spoiler show, so do not be mad at us when we talk about all the little juicy details that happened this season. So you have been warned. For everybody else, welcome.
Yes.
Hope you enjoyed Season 7 like we did, because it was awesome.
Yeah. And like Brian was saying, you can go watch and listen to every single episode of Season 7 as we recap it and dive into it. So
yes. Well, now that all that's out of the way, what'd you think of Season 7, man?
It was all right, I guess.
I mean, some stuff happened.
Stuff happened. A couple people died.
I was watching Supergirl reruns.
We got to see some stuff flew through the air and
whatever.
Burned a whole bunch of Lannisters and
whatever. You know what? You can hide your enthusiasm all you want to. Season 7 was literally the most epic and in some ways worst season of Game of Thrones all wrapped into one. But it was really epic, and it was really for all its flaws, and we'll talk about some of the flaws of the season later because unfortunately there are many, but It was the most fast-moving and exciting season I think we've gotten so far.
Oh, God, so fast. This season would have taken 3 seasons to go through if they had started from the beginning.
Three 10-episode seasons. Instead, we got one 7-episode season. The finale was an hour and a half, but...
Yeah. They were doing the Skyrim fast travel system. Everybody would just be like, oh, hey, I've been to that city before, and then, boom, they would just pop right up in there.
I mean, here's the thing, and I don't want to say this too much, but we will talk about the fast travel system later in the show here, but the thing I really liked about Season 7, honestly, is that you can tell we are at the end of this saga. And as much as I wouldn't mind 2 or 3 more seasons, I would be totally okay with 2 or 3 more seasons where they had the slow travel, and it took, to your point, 3 seasons to get all the stuff that we got, because that's just kind of the way the show's been. But I did appreciate the fact that the showrunners, despite all the things that they did do wrong, they did a great job of lining this up for the final battle, right? The final 2 battles to come. The battle with the White Walkers and the battle with Cersei, for the throne. I mean, it's finally all come together. I know at the beginning of the season we kind of wondered how they would be able to. There was so many loose, story threads hanging around. Would they be able to get to the point where we could see the end in sight? And could they do it in 7 episodes? And unfortunately, there was some bumps along the way, but they pretty much did that. Just that. I mean, by the end of this episode, by the end of Season 7, the wall had come down. The White Walkers were in Westeros, and that is exactly, we predicted that a long time ago, that would be the final shot of Season 7. And, sure enough it was. But they've gotten us to that point which has always been the end game. I do worry a little bit for season 8. There's only going to be 6 episodes. Are they really going to be able to wrap it up in a way that feels satisfying? Because I'll be honest, if it was as fast as it went this season, it's not going to be as satisfying as we had hoped, I think. But they did a great job. If that was their mission this season, to get rid of all the fat, trim the fat, get rid of all the side stories, and just get right into the heart of this story, they did do that, and they did it well.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say, is that for as much as there was problems with like the plot and stuff like that, they actually did an incredible job of speeding things up and getting to a point where it was still had plausible deniability. It's like you don't want to push stuff like too far to where it just kind of takes us like out of the experience. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had to really, and as we all know, for budget reasons and stuff like that, they kind of had to push stuff up as far as they could to make it that it was still believable. I mean, the budget for the show has, I think it like doubled or tripled or something like that. I mean,
the dragons
and just
the
just
dragons,
with the
way they
dragon
looked
CG.
alone it's better than what most. I think we could both agree it's better than what we've seen in a lot of movies.
There is no CG that can match the dragons in Game of Thrones. I can't think or say of a movie. I mean, there's like, remember when like the Lion, the Witch, and the Road, people are like, oh, the lion's got individual hairs that flow and stuff like that. It's like that. I mean, those things look like shit compared to the dragons.
Dude, when Jon Snow reached out and petted Drogon, I mean, it looked like he was petting a real dragon.
Yeah, it's been insane. But like you said, there are some. I want to say minor, but
well, here I'll tell you what. Let's dive into. I don't want to start this on a negative note. So let's dive into the things that we loved about season 7.
It gets too easy to get negative.
Yeah, we'll talk about them and we'll get them out of the way. But there was so much to love about this season. That's kind of what I want to focus on this episode, is the things that worked really well, especially in this first part. So, what did you think about the Jon Daenerys storyline? So, this season did an excellent job in a lot of ways of bringing those two finally together, and I thought they did a good job of setting up how those two could eventually kind of fall in love and why it made sense. And I love that they introduced Jon early on, and like episode 1, boom, right out of the gates, Jon. Well, no, it was episode 2. Jon meets Daenerys.
It was episode 2, Stormborn, where he actually got to see Daenerys.
Yeah, he meets Daenerys, but I mean, right out of the gate, and they built that over a lot of story. I mean, I think those two got the majority of the story of the screen time of any of the characters, and so, whether you like Jon and Dany together or not, I think you have to admit that the showrunners did a great job of kind of setting that up and getting us to that point where it felt believable.
Yeah, Stormborn was definitely one of the biggest like culminations of everything that the viewers had wanted over the last 7 years. When they finally got to meet, and to kind of break the tension, where they had what's her name? She did, the long list of all Daenerys, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons.
Melisandre? The hottest woman in Westeros?
Yeah, and then, God, why can't I not remember everyone's names?
Because we haven't talked about Game of Thrones in like 4 weeks.
I know. And this is Jon.
Davos, Sir Davos. This is Jon.
Yeah, Sir Davos, that's right. Seaworthy. And the Onion Knight. And, he said this is Jon. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened that were fun and emotional, and and kind of got everything that we wanted.
Well, and to your point, beyond the Jon and Dany, bringing the people together, giving us what we wanted. There was so many. That was another great thing about this season, was there was so many reunions that have been long coming for so long. And long coming for so long. I think it's like a double something. There's been so many reunions that we've wanted to happen for so long that, we finally got to see these people back together, and it was, and we got the dialogue that we'd want to go along with it, right? You got Arya and Sansa when they finally meet. They have a conversation that you would expect them to have. It took a little while to get there, but Everyone's excited to see Bran, but Bran's changed so much that everyone's like, oh, all right. It just...
Bran just sits around and stares at stuff.
Yeah, we got the Starks back at Winterfell. We got Jon and Dany, which was great. You've got Tyrion seeing Jaime and Cersei again for the first time in a long, long time. You got Bronn and Tyrion talking, again. You've got the Hound meeting Brienne of Tarth again and talking about Arya and kind of showing that.
And we got to see Tormund talk about his deep love for Brienne.
God, yeah. And, as much as it was probably...
monster babies.
Well, and as much as maybe it was probably my least favorite episode of the season, you got to see the Magnificent Seven with the 7 most manly men in Westeros all go beyond the wall and just be awesome.
The Magnificent Seven plus the 5 redcoats that somehow died.
There was like 50 redcoats who just died.
Well, some died, and then it made it seem like there was only a couple, but then in the next scene there's 20 more of them.
All right, well, okay. So, no, I don't want to keep saying, we'll talk about that later. Let's talk a little bit about this, since we're already talking about the redcoats. One of my biggest problems I did have with this season, and like I said, my least favorite episode of this season was Beyond the Wall. Not because it didn't have some awesome moments. Watching Rhaegon the dragon die was crazy. Watching the dragon show up and just lay waste to the White Walkers was amazing. But leading up to that, you had all this build up. They played it off like these 7 people, and you had this sense of okay, they're all not making it. Half of them aren't coming back. Well, who's it going to be? It ended up being almost nobody. It ended up being the one drunken... The drunken...
the guy that nobody cared about.
Fire. And nobody else died. Somebody should have died in that episode. This season played it safe with so many characters to the point where it didn't actually feel like Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, if this is a precursor for season 8. They don't want to... They only have 6 episodes.
Here's what I think, honestly. If you want to know here's my honest thoughts. My honest thoughts is that George R. R. Martin, because we're out of source material at this point, gave a loose outline of what happens to every character, right? This is how this person dies, all the main characters. Now, I think there's a lot of wiggle room for these side characters, and maybe George has given them, okay, Tormund dies defending the wall at this point, right? Mm-hmm. But in between, no one knows what's going to happen. So I think what you ended up having happen this season is you had a lot of television writers who had a lot of leeway with all these characters, and they just wrote them into exciting stories. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, what ended up happening is that the show this season felt so much more like television and so less like Game of Thrones. For instance, we're going to talk about our favorite episode, The Spoils of War. And in that episode, we both, on our review, we talked about how Bronn should have died in that episode, and he should have died in that episode. If this was really George
R. R. Martin, he should have died saving Jaime. He pushed him away, and the fire was breathing, and that was his time to die. Yeah,
exactly. In George R. R. Martin's book, if he was writing that story, Bronn would be dead as the day is long, right? And it would have been a fitting end. Now, I'm glad Bronn's alive. We got some great we got some great conversations with him and Jaime all throughout the season after that point. And I'm excited to see him die in season 8, but he should have died this season, right? He should have died at that moment. That's what the stories dictated, and they deviated from that. In past seasons, you had the source material where George would have never let these guys off the hook. Bronn would have been dead. Brienne of Tarth probably would have been dead. Tormund definitely would have died at Beyond the Wall. You would. I think the Hound is probably safe because the Clegane Bowl, God, I can never say that right, is going to happen at some point. But, it felt very fan servicey to its own detriment. We got some really cool moments and it was fun, but deep down you just felt like it wasn't Game of Thrones a lot of times. And I think that was the biggest, that was one of the major downfalls to this season for me, is as much as I don't want to see my favorite characters die, it's Game of Thrones. So when you stop killing off major characters and you feel like they're, I'm going to borrow a phrase I heard from another podcast, from IGN's podcast, they call it plot armor. When you have plot armor because the plot dictates that you're not going to die here because we want you for something else, the show never felt as, visceral as it did earlier in the season.
You mean someone can't fall into a lake in full fur clothes, holding onto a sword being dragged down for 20 minutes and then swim back up and not freeze to death?
Yes, exactly. We know that Jon Snow was not going to die this season. It just was not going to happen, right?
He's already
going to
been
be
dead.
there next season. I'm pretty sure George R. R. Martin, he brought John back. I'm guessing he brings John back. Wouldn't that be the twist? In the books, John's just dead.
In the book, it's just John just gone.
John's gone.
Oh,
He's
man.
gone forever.
That would piss people off so much.
But,
he just said fuck it, and he just typed in Control F, and everything that said Jon Snow, he just hit delete.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like 4 or 5 main characters that have that plot armor, that even George would say that I have to give them because their story, they have to finish this story, right? But everybody else, the fact that every major character, for the most part, had that plot armor this season, even the secondary characters, because people love them. It's like people want to see a reunion of Tormund and Brienne of Tarth, so you almost feel like they're both safe until you get that reunion. I mean, Grey Worm didn't die.
See the Hound
Melisandre didn't die. Nobody, except for Littlefinger, which we'll talk about, nobody died in this season for the most part. And it just, with everything that happened, all the epic battles, all the epic just people getting lit on fire, nobody we really, really cared about died. Except for, like I said, Littlefinger. And that is not the way George R. R. Martin would do it.
Yeah, they killed off the lowest hanging fruit just to appease people.
Well, I didn't think it was lowest hanging. Littlefinger is a major character in the show, but his story had come to a complete end. He had no place at the very end of this. You already have Cersei, who's running the human element of the Game of Thrones, and it just was not going to happen. And it was his time to go. And even that they stretched out. I mean, they could have killed him early in the season, and it probably would have been fine.
Yeah, and I have some issues with Winterfell, but I kind of want to get into that when we talk about the season 8 stuff.
But I mean, but that was my biggest problem with one of my biggest. I had 2 major issues with this season, and the lack of deaths was one of them. That being said, we touched base on the spoils of war. I don't want to dwell all negative here because, like I said, I love this season. We both love Spoils of War. I think we both picked as our favorite episode. And man, was that amazing. We got the best of this season because we got the fucking dragons. And they just... Well,
you got to start with the Dothraki cresting the hill.
Oh, man.
And, coming in like fucking mad people. And then you just... Fucking Drogon just flying over everything.
And it's everything
that we've been waiting for since you saw the dragons.
Yeah, and you know what? Not just special effects, but kudos Game of Thrones for your actual live effects. You set a world record for most people lit on fire.
Yeah,
I mean, the battle sequences are better. The battle sequences in Spoils of War is better than anything I've ever seen in a movie. And I mean that with the exception of maybe Saving Private Ryan. I think it was on par with the Saving Private Ryan, the Normandy scene. Just in its, drag you into this moment and just be like, oh my god. You felt like you were in those flames with the dragons flying around.
Yeah, you were sitting there going, where did they get a real dragon to shoot this thing? Because
all these poor people, they sacrificed.
Because between, the fire coming out of the dragon's mouth and, lighting 100-something people on fire at one time.
Yeah, I mean, you felt bad for all the stuntmen who they sacrificed for the ratings. I mean, it was
so well shot.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was unbelievable. And then, if Bronn would have died at that moment, it might be the best episode I've ever seen.
Well, and Bronn fucking jumps on the giant scorpion thing, and all of a sudden he's a scorpion shooting master.
Dude, that dude had more lives than a cat in that episode. But man, and just even when Jaime decides he wants to try and kill Drogon with one fell swoop, and his brother's like, "What are you doing, you fucking idiot? Don't!" And he's like,
"Don't do it."
I'm gonna ride. I'm gonna try and sacrifice myself. One of the other things I loved about this season was Jaime's storyline.
Jaime became very much human, to where Cersei became very much inhuman, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, and forever I think we've all kind of wondered what would break these two apart. Early on, what was it, season 2, when season 2 when he gets captured and kind of starts his journey towards not being a complete and utter terrible human being. And he's gotten one of the better character arcs I've ever seen on television, where a person that you just despised early on. He's had a very long redemption arc that's been going on, and it's now with him leaving King's Landing. I mean, obviously that I don't even think that's really the end of his redemption arc. He's still got
He's still got a long ways to go.
Well, we'll talk about what I think was going to happen with Jaime in season 8, but that moment when he walks away from Cersei, I thought he might actually die. I really thought he was going to walk away when Cersei's like, "You won't leave me, I'll kill you," and he's just like, "I don't believe you," and the mountain kind of pulls out his sword.
Just like Tyrion, she couldn't do it. She could not kill her own family.
She couldn't. But that moment with Jaime was so earned, and so we had spent 7 seasons wondering, seeing how much he loved her, how bad of a human being he was, the people in his life that changed him to the point where he had sex with his sister. There's no getting around that. He's done terrible things. But at this point, you look at him as a person who you feel has deserves his redemption that he's getting to, And I don't think the story's going to end well for Jaime, but I think it was a great moment for the audience that we finally got to see this full circle of from a guy from point A all the way to where he's completely finally able in his life to reject the evil thing because he's done so much wrong. He can't. This is the last thing. He just can't do this, right? This is the one thing that was too far. The world is at stake. His honor is at stake. It was like his first opportunity in this whole thing to do the right thing for Westeros and for everyone. And he was like, it's almost like it was his way out and way to redeem everything he's done. And Cersei was going to take that away from him, and he just wouldn't do that. And I just, at least for me, I felt like that was such a earned moment that didn't get a lot of the credit because of everything else that was going on. Jon and Dany, the dragons. But for me, that was one of my favorite moments of Season 7. It's just the end of that story, and he's got more to tell, obviously, but the end of that arc and how we got to that point, it's just a 7-season story that's finally paid off.
Well, and we're going to see if Jaime still commands the loyalty of the Lannisters.
Yeah.
Because I want to see in season 8 if him leaving King's Landing, if that means that some of the Lannister army is going to follow him, or does he have?
Yeah, well,
or does he have to leave completely?
I do have a theory about Jaime that's not a pleasant one, but we'll talk about it in a little bit. Did you have a particular favorite storyline that we haven't already talked about, or anything else that you really enjoyed?
Some of my favorite parts were actually just that involve, I think, the Tyrion coming up to Jon Snow when he was brooding over the edge of the cliff, and Tyrion said, "I've never seen someone, brood so hardly, so hard before."
Well, they kind of that was, that points to something that I think was on point. A bigger thing this season was the writing in general. It was very self-aware of what it was, and they had some great lines because of it. Like when Davos is like, "Oh, I thought you'd still be rowing," when he goes back.
Yeah, they did. When you say it that way, and I started to think about it, I think almost everybody had like a sidebar conversation.
Yeah.
Not like a big conversation that's a part of like the main story, but like a sidebar conversation that just adds, an extra layer to everything. Tormund talking to the Hound, about how he knows Brienne, and and they both, know her, and he wants to marry her and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, we would never have gotten that kind of sidebar conversations in the previous seasons. And so,
I think it's
you
possibly
get stuff
too,
like,
because this is the first time we've seen a lot of these characters interact for 4 or 5, 6 years. For some characters like Jon and Dany, it's the first time we've ever seen them interact.
Yeah. So we got a lot of like great kind of conversational stuff this season. And I think they did pay a lot of fan service on a bunch of it, especially with Bronn.
I feel like
talking to Tyrion.
I feel like most of it wasn't too bad. It was fan servicey, but I think for the most part it worked within the world and the things that they would say to each other. But yeah, no, I'm with you. There's there was definitely a lot of that this season.
Yeah, especially Bronn and Jaime at the very beginning of the final episode, where they start talking about cocks.
The eunuchs. Yeah, but hey. The comedy was on point this season. There was a lot of comedy. Yeah. It was definitely, I think, the funniest of all the seasons, and there was a lot of that. A lot of the good conversations, dialogues, and just interactions was definitely some of the high points. So let's talk about, unless you got anything else you want to talk about for high points, let's talk about some of the, maybe not low points, but just some of the storylines. For me, there was 2 in particular. Oh, you know what? Real quick, one last little high point of the season. It was so small, but I loved it. I want more of it. I don't know how we're going to get it. But the guards. We had two sets of guards that were some of my favorite characters. 2 of them lived, 2 of them not so much. But I want to see more of that, of the regular folk of Westeros and their their plights.
Well, and we kind of got it in that one episode where Arya comes upon the Lannister soldiers, and that one pop singer guy was singing or some shit, and everybody lost their mind.
So mad about that. First of all, I did not hate that. People let it go. It wasn't that bad. Ed Sheeran, who cares? I thought it was fine.
They did do a lot of showing the more common folk, I think, this season. And to kind of give you like a little bit of perspective on what it's kind of like for those people. God, if we could just have a 15-minute webisode with just like the 2 guards in Winterfell.
Oh my God,
I would watch that
every week. Oh, and also a real quick shout out to the Lady of Thorns. That girl's exit on this show was epic. And she was one of my favorite characters on this whole series. You knew she was going to die, but Lady Olenna, whatever. Lady Tyrell.
The Queen of Thorns.
Was
awesome. Lady Tyrell.
Anyway, all right. Okay, so let's move to some of the things we didn't like so much about the show. We already mentioned the fact that a lot of people lived who shouldn't have lived. And that, my other major point before we dive into a few of the other smaller things and storylines was the fast travel system. I didn't mind it most of the times, but I did feel that it almost broke the episode in Beyond the Wall when.
Yes, it's even after the episode, they still had to do a lot of like trying to back up their arguments for why. Why they had to do it and stuff like that. I don't think it was something they exactly had to do.
Well, I think they
only did
writing.
it because of time constraints and budget constraints.
I also think it was sloppy writing. I feel like you could have written it into that a little bit better. You could have had, Gendry run.
Well, the thing is, they didn't.
I don't know. I just feel like
they wanted stuff to happen, but they didn't want a lot of time to have to.
How about you bring a horse? If you want him, if you know this is the end, if you know that Gentry has to get back and let her know, bring a horse. He could have hopped on maybe they have one horse, and they say, you take the horse and get out of here. And then it would be a little more explaining. But he ran in a blizzard for like a day straight and then got a raven. I mean, I'm not one to nitpick, right? I'm just not. I can enjoy a show for what it is. I understand the time constraint because of the budget.
We have a motto of as long as we're entertained, we enjoy it and stuff like that.
But you had in the very first season, you had Cersei bitching that it took 2 months for them to get from King's Landing to Winterfell. And in the span of one episode, you had like more traveling than you've ever had. Now I can deal with the earlier episodes, the army's moving really fast with with House Tyrell falling immediately and Grey Worm getting here and then getting there. I can deal with some of that, but here's the problem: you have a pregnant lady in Cersei who never grows, her belly never grows. Everybody's hair stays exactly the same. There's no evidence that time has gone by.
Sam is still fat, even though he was at the wall.
Baby
where
Sam
there was
is like
no
the same
food.
age, and there's no evidence that time's gone by, but yet. They're saying, oh yeah, it's the fast travel system. If you're going to fast travel, which I'm totally fine with, I like the faster paced season. I get we're coming to the end. I get they're just trying to trim it down because of budget. If it meant we couldn't get Drogon, but maybe once or twice this season, but we got to see 3 episodes of them running, I would much rather take it the way we did. But I felt like the writing was real sloppy. They could have found ways to incorporate this better. And they just didn't. They just said, you know what? We're just going to do it, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And for a show that's for 5 seasons, 6 seasons, asks us to believe in what we're seeing, right? That they lay the groundwork, that heroes can die, and that villains can rule. And it takes a certain amount of time to get from here to here. Or, it's part of the story to change it so drastically and so kind of flippantly. It didn't bother me until we got to the Beyond the Wall when it was just like, come on, this is ridiculous. It was cool, but it was ridiculous.
And in the very beginning, Jaime Lannister in season 1 said there's about 500,000 people that live in King's Landing. And then in this season, Tyrion saying, "Yeah, there's 1 million people that live here." It's like, oh, so they've doubled in the last year or two. That's been.
And like I said, as good as the show's been, there's definitely been some sloppy writing on the now there's been some great writing too. I mean, we were praising the comedy aspect and some of the great conversations, but the actual structure of the story itself has been a little sloppy, and I really hope that they tighten it up for season 8. I do think that George is I feel like most of the notes he gave them are really going to play out in this next season. I feel like this next season is going to feel much more like George R. R. Martin's story because we're going to have so many people dying, because the showrunners know the ending, and they'll get to that point, I think, a little bit better than they did this season. But
do we want to just dive into season 8? Because I think it.
Well,
we've said 20 times now.
Well, we can. There's two storylines we got to talk about real quick. One we can talk about fast because I thought it was pretty pointless this season. The Greyjoy storyline, I still not even really sure why they weren't taken off the map with the rest of the side houses, honestly. I guess they maybe just needed them for their boats.
And Reek, that whole fight at the very end, fighting for his sister and
when they kick him in the
the 13 Ironborn guys are going to take their one ship and try and retake the whole Iron Fleet. I mean, we don't need that storyline. There's only 6 episodes.
What I don't understand is, Reek kind of redeems himself. He stops being Reek when he saves Sansa, right? And he goes with his sister, and that was his whole arc, right? And I get that he's still a broken man, but then for him to have to revert kind of back to Reek again, and now he's got to once again prove, is his character basically really that important or necessary that we need all this from him?
I think they were saving him for Jon. Like they wanted to make it like Jon was the one that was going to, put him back on the right path.
Well,
and in a way he did, but was it necessary? I don't think so.
I think maybe Theon is I think maybe he's still alive as a result of, I think it's possible. Whoa, horns, people honking. I think it's possible that his character has a big impact on the very end of the story, and maybe they couldn't kill him because he's so important to the story, but the writers for the television version just don't know what to do with him, and I think that's kind of what we got going on here a little bit. But I think the story we got so much Greyjoy, and we just didn't need it. There were so many other things that could have been explored. I don't really care that much. I like Yara, but then we saw her being drugged through the streets in episode 3, and then we never saw her again the rest of the season.
We could have used just the batshit crazy Euron, and that was it. That was all we needed. Yeah. It's just that crazy motherfucker.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope they wrap up Theon's story really early in the next season. And then the last story. Well, we didn't even touch base on Cersei. Cersei, I think we should put her in the good storyline. I thought she had a pretty good storyline this season. She got everything she wanted, but she's definitely set up for massive failure in season 8.
Good in that you hate her more.
Well, she became everything that she wanted to be. Now it cost her literally everything, and everyone that she cares about. But she's got her baby, and now she's got the throne. That's what she wanted, and she's got a purpose. So I thought she had I thought she would die at the beginning of the season or at the end of the season, and I'm kind of glad she didn't, because it gives us somebody else to hate. And I think she's definitely got some dirty, underhanded tricks lined up for next season. But overall, I enjoyed her storyline. Now let's talk about the longest storyline that I neither hated nor liked at the same time, and it's the Winterfell storyline with Sansa and Littlefinger and Arya and Bran. It took so much screen time, and I felt like it could have all been resolved in an episode.
Did it seem forced to you? Because it felt like they had to be like, well, we gotta do something with these people in Winterfell, even though they're serving no real purpose whatsoever.
I think
she's trying to get everything in line, so all they're doing is basically just like making sure the fire's going, and that they're saving enough food for winter.
Well, so what they had to accomplish is they had to turn Jon into the King of the North. Okay, then they had to put Sansa as Lady of the North. They had to reunite all the Starks, and then they had to kill Littlefinger. Those are only 4 things, but I think they like the actors. They didn't need 7 episodes worth of story, right?
Yeah, they could have done that in one episode.
And what I think really happened is I think the writer said, okay, one of the big points for the last episode is going to be we want Littlefinger to think he's turned the tables, but really all the Starks have turned the tables on him, right? And and that's what we want. And so I think they wrote that, and then they were like, well, how do we get there? Okay, well, we'll bring Arya. Well, Arya and Sansa reunited episode 4, so now we got 3 episodes of things for them to do, and we got to figure out ways that they don't go talk to Bran, where he just says,
let's make Arya and Sansa catty with each other. They got to be super catty with each other and mean for 2 episodes.
It didn't make any sense. Like, there was 2 episodes there that we both were kind of like, I don't know what's going on with the storyline.
Yeah,
because they were
if I hadn't seen my sibling in years and our family was brutally murdered and torn apart, I wouldn't just come back and start being a dick.
Well, they were like, no, Arya was kind of Arya, right? And then we had that great showdown with Arya and Bran of Tarth, which was one of my favorite fight scenes in the show. And then Arya and Sansa have a really heartfelt talk in the catacombs. And then you're like, okay, they're all good. And then the next episode, Arya's like, it's your fault, the father's dead, and you sided with the enemy. And you're like, what? Where did this come from, you know?
I can cut your face off and become you.
Yeah, and Bran's just out like, you looked really pretty on your wedding night when you were raped. And it's like, what is going on with these
dude, kids? You guys have no idea what I've been seeing.
Now, it was
see
awesome
everything, man.
It was great when Littlefinger was trying to play Bran, and Bran's like, chaos is a ladder. And then he's like,
yeah.
He's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
You could literally see in his eyes his sphincter tighten. He's like, oh, how does he know that?
Yeah.
You know, and I did love the overall, you know, the I don't know, the double reversal on Littlefinger, and his reaction was so great to like, how is he going to get out of this? He couldn't and caught, and even Arya's just quick execution where she's like, whoosh, dead. You know, that was really cool. But it was a wasted. I thought they wasted a lot of screen time. They could have spent so much more time on giving us Jon's true lineage. You know, I love that we finally got it. I hated how long that took.
Yeah.
It's the worst kept secret ever. We've known since the Tower of Joy. And it took forever to get to the final. I mean, did they really have to go all the way to episode 7 to when Jon's boning his aunt to tell us that, oh yeah, by the way, he's actually the, you know, Aegon, the true king of Westeros.
Yeah. And I could have used more Sam.
Yeah.
I love Sam, you know, like he cured Jorah Mormont.
Except for if we would have got more of the poop and like skin scraping Sam, that was disgusting.
God, that was gross.
That was so gross.
He got through it, good old Sam.
Yeah, Sam. The rest of his family didn't get through it too well. There was another underdeveloped characters they could have spent more time on developing, except for we spent so much time in Winterfell. He still doesn't know his family was roasted alive by Daenerys yet. We'll see how that plays out.
I don't know if he even knows. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. He still doesn't know yet that Drogon just torched him, turned him into some s'mores.
Yeah, his dad's a marshmallow.
Yeah, his brother's a crispy critter.
Yeah.
So I mean that's what I mean. That's what felt so off. It was like, you know, we spend 7 episodes stretching out Littlefinger's death basically, and we get like 30 seconds of exposition to find out that Jon is actually the true king. You know, I would have liked to see more of that, right? And less of. I feel like you could have taken the whole Winterfell story and just wrapped it up. Now, I did like that every single person got their shot on Littlefinger before they killed him. You know, right before Jon leaves, he chokes him out in the catacombs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everybody got a good, like, one last punch.
Yeah, so that was cool. But anyway, let's see what else. There was one other thing I wanted to say. I don't remember. Anything else for you to stand out as something you did or didn't like?
Let's see. I got death. My favorite death with Littlefinger.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much the only death.
No, I hit every single thing on my list for season 7. All
right. Well, in that case, well, we'll see. I'm sure there's something we missed. If there's anything we missed, and you guys are screaming at your TVs or iPhones or however you're choosing to watch our show, we'll talk about in the comments, you know, below. Let us know what you guys, what we missed and what you guys wanted to talk about, or let us know what your favorite or least favorite things about season 7 were. But if we remember anything else, we'll talk about it. But right now we're shifting to our season 8 predictions. What do we think? Now, originally we had talked about that we might give you guys our thoughts on every single character, every single thing, but we've decided we're going to save that for an early pre-season 8 show. We'll do it before the first episode, where we'll give our actual official predictions, so that way we're on record. We have all summer and winter and next summer to think about it. But,
we need time to prepare our notes.
Yep.
And for hopefully have George R. R. Martin publish the next book. So then
I will talk to my uncle and I will find out everything that's going to happen. But we will talk about some individual characters and kind of our overview of what we think is going to happen for season 8 tonight. So you guys don't have to wait that long, because we're not HBO. We're not jerks. We're not going to make you wait for 2 years.
Yeah.
I remember what my last pet peeve was. I got one more real quick. My biggest pet peeve, one of my biggest pet peeves was no ghosts. Ow!
Yes.
We couldn't get one single scene with Ghost or a bit of dialogue to tell what Ghost is doing.
We got to see Ara's wolf.
Yeah, Nightmare, that was great. I want to see Ghost. How big is Ghost?
Yeah.
What the fuck's he been up to for the last 2 seasons?
It's Ghost 30 feet tall. We don't know. Maybe we'll never know.
How easy would it have been when John's about to leave, you see Ghost, and John says, protect Winterfeld or watch over my family. And then you're like, okay, that's what Ghost has been doing all season, just hanging out in Winterfell. Maybe see him eating a dead person occasionally, something. But no, but you know what? On this show, you want to see Ghost? The only place you can see him apparently is on the Geek Dad Report. Ow!
Well,
all right, predictions, season 8. Where do you want to start?
How about we start with season 8 is only going to be 6 episodes.
6 episodes, but I've heard that most of them are going to be feature length. So I think hour and a half, like the season finale.
Oh, really? So they're going to be... Okay, so that gives me a little more hope, because if there's going to be 6 episodes that are hour long, that season's going to be... You got to, one episode... By episode 3, you got to have a huge portion of the story already done.
So, yeah.
And
so
that's
what do we think?
Fast.
What do we think is going to be the end? Do we think this is going to play linear, where Jon and Daenerys are fighting Cersei and the North? I personally think the first half of this season is going to be Jon and Daenerys' battle against the dead, and I think maybe the last episode or 2 are going to be the final Game of Thrones, like the human element of this, the betrayal, the wrapping up of the story, the who sits on the Iron Throne. I do not think that we'll still be battling White Walkers in the 6th and final episode. I don't think it'll be resolved quickly, but I definitely don't think I don't think it's gonna be a season-long threat.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have to get to the battle with the undead first, just because we know that the Golden Company is coming over from Essos, and that's going to take them.
We know that they've been dispatched. Euron was dispatched to go get them, but we also know Theon is on a way to save his sister, who's with Euron right now. So is it possible that maybe that's Theon's purpose, is that he stops the Golden Company from coming over here?
That could be it. He could be the one that destroys the whole Golden Company. A bunch of elephants rampaging on boats.
Because if my prediction's correct, in that we lose most armies and most people fighting the dead, then you could realistically have the Lannisters left over, and then whatever forces Daenerys left. It may not even be that many people.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear my theory about what's going to happen to Cersei, though?
What's your theory?
I think Jaime is going to die fighting I think Jaime's going to sacrifice himself, saving, I don't know, pick a character, maybe his brother, sacrificing himself to save his brother, and he dies. And then Arya takes his face. She goes with the Hound back to King's Landing, and she kills Cersei wearing her brother's face, therefore fulfilling the prophecy of that the younger brother would kill Cersei.
That is... I could see that happening.
And besides
honestly.
that, who is number 1 on Arya's list?
Cersei is always number 1.
Which brings me to my prediction number 2, that Sansa will be killed by the Night King, leaving nothing left for Arya to stick in Winterfell for. She will go down and she will kill Cersei, because that is all she'll have left, is vengeance.
You think Arya's not going to have anything left?
Well, I think
I
think if Sansa gets killed by the Night King, I think a little bit of unfortunately Shakespearean poetry Sansa has wanted to be a queen forever since she was a little girl, and I think she may end up becoming the Night King's queen. I don't think she'll get killed. Sorry, I think she'll get straight turned into a White Walker by the Night King.
That would be sad.
And I could see Arya. I could see Arya mad, maybe that Cersei betrayed everyone, and that because of she didn't show up to help, that her sister's dead. Maybe Winterfell's expecting reinforcements and they fall because I think Winterfell is falling. I think that's gonna happen next season.
It's gonna burn because he's got a fucking Night King on his dragon.
Yeah,
flying
and then we're gonna have some
it.
sweet dragon on dragon action. It's gonna be
if we get there, and then John's gonna find out he's fucking his aunt.
And I think she's gonna have a baby all up in there. I think Daenerys is gonna be pregnant. I think this show could end up doing a little bit of a time jump, to tell you the truth, at some point next season, because I think she's gonna have babies, and I think she's gonna have 3 babies, and because they are going to be Jon Snow's babies, she will in fact be mother of dragons, 3 dragons to be precise, fulfilling the prophecy of the 3 dragons.
Have you been listening to other podcasts or something?
I have not. This is my own personal
theory. You're
theory.
making way too much sense right now.
This is my own personal theory. We're also going to find out that Bran is the Lord of Light. I'm not sure how that one's going to play out yet, but I almost thought they were going to give it to us when they walked in. So when Sam walked in and talked to Bran about it, and that's where he found out about Jon's heritage, is Bran was staring directly into the fire, and I thought he was going to be warging, right? And I'm like, oh.
He's all making people
see through the fire,
shoot flames out of their asses,
right out of their butts. That's his superpower. So, as far as who sits on the throne, hell, I don't know. If Daenerys has babies, Jon could sacrifice himself to save his children. Daenerys could die in childbirth. Daenerys and Jon could both die, and the 3 dragons could be raised by Devos. Maybe Drogon lives and raises the children in the wild? I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Ghost and Drogon raise the children like their own.
Well, so here's it. Other than the Night King and Cersei, is there really someone that we're hoping dies other than those 2?
No, but I think that's enough.
Has everybody essentially had their redemption arc, or? Because to me it seems like we have their 2 main baddies,
but
Cersei
they're both
and Night
really
King.
Bad. Cersei represents. Think about from this too. Cersei represents every single thing wrong with Westeros, and the Night King represents everything wrong with magic and the North, right? And so you have these 2 ultimate evil characters. Now, unfortunately, unless we get some flashbacks or some other stuff, the Night King, we don't have any reason to hate him other than the fact that he's just evil, right? He has no depth to him. He's a one-dimensional character. Which is why I think he'll die before Cersei does, because I think Cersei... That's also why I think that a character like a Sansa being turned, that would add emotional weight to that fight, right? Right now there's no emotional weight. Either our characters live or they die. If you turn Sansa or you turn Arya, or not just kill them, but turn them, now you have this other, that motherfucker... it's a violation of the characters that we love, and it really makes you feel something, really visceral. So,
well, how do you think Dany's gonna react when she sees her fucking dragon's been turned into White Walker?
Dude, I don't know. Dany's got a lot of shit that's about to hit the fan. One, she's finding out she's boning her nephew, which I don't think she'll mind as much as Jon will. I think Jon's gonna have a problem with it.
She gets angry, and when she gets angry, she fucking murdered shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She's kind of partially a villain. Jon is literally the only purest Snow. That's why it's Jon Snow.
Yeah.
He's the only. Him and Sam are the 2 unflappable characters who've done nothing wrong. But
when Cersei was trying to get him to bend a knee, essentially too, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I've already done that."
That was so
my
great.
Bad.
I wish
everybody's like, "You fucking idiot, just lie." And then he said, "This everybody lies," and then words have no meaning and stuff like that. So he's the one true hero in the show, and who's always stayed true to himself. Everybody's kind of had to rebuild their characters, from the base and become to who they are. Jon's always been Jon.
Yeah, he's laser focused on what's right and not doing what just is easy. So yeah, you know, I would love to see John. I would love to see John take his place. Everything he's been through. You know, is that a little too normal for a George R. R. Martin story? Possibly, but I mean, I don't think anything's normal. I think he's gonna have babies with his aunt. So you know, you know, I don't really know how it's all gonna play out, and it can all be shot to shit within the first episode. But you know, those are kind of my predictions. I also think that what was my other prediction gonna be? I think we're gonna get I think the Hound in the Mountain will happen. I think. Oh
yeah, they're definitely gonna get that. I mean, that's one fight they're gonna like dedicate like a whole portion of the episode to.
So who do you think of? I mean, I don't know. Do you have any crazy theories that you think's gonna happen?
You know, other than now that I'm thinking Theon possibly could be the one that stops the Golden Company. Man, I don't really have any like crazy out of the wall ones that we haven't been talking about. I mean, I feel like Winterfell, it's going to get torched.
Yeah.
And I feel like all the people that are trying to get up to the north are doing it at a pace that's not going to work out. I mean, they have to get the whole army going from King's Landing still.
Yeah.
And they said that would take a fortnight, which is like what?
I think
a month or two.
Yeah, I think by the second episode we're going to have starting the conflict with the White Walkers. I think first episode of next season will be a lot of setup, but I think episode 2 will just be like you start. I mean, he's on a dragon. Dragons fly really fast.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Especially these dragons.
All right. Well, do you think so? Real quick, let's end this on a quick prediction. There's 5 major characters? We'll say 5 major characters, and we're going to say just a simple live or die. All right? Put it on the spot right now. So, John, live or die.
Live.
By the end of
it. He's already died.
But when the show is over, will they still be alive or will they be dead? John.
Yep, he's going to be alive. He's already been killed.
Yep.
They never kill the same person twice.
I'm going to say also alive. Daenerys, Stormborn, first of her name. Born on a Sunday. Solomon Grundy. Died on a Monday.
Dead.
Yep.
She's going to die.
Man, we didn't even talk about this. I'm also going to say Daenerys is dead. A goner. Sansa. Well, we already know what I think is going to happen to Sansa. What about you? Dead or alive?
I think she's going to live. I don't think she's going to turn into a White Walker.
All right.
I think somehow she's going to become the Lady of the North.
Bran.
That's a tough one because he's the three-eyed raven. I think he's going to have some kind of fight with the Night King, like through like the weird powers that they have.
Yeah, we all think it's Jon. It's actually going to be Bran. What if he wargs into Ghost and he fights the Night King?
I think Bran is going to warg into a dragon and just cool. Like start fucking torching shit.
Well, I think Bran will neither live nor die. I think the body of Bran will cease to exist, and he will turn into a tree or a fire or something.
Yeah, that's true. Bran is essentially already dead. It's the three-eyed raven that it is now. Mm-hmm. And so I think once he's served his purpose, he's going to be like that old guy that goes into a cave and becomes the roots of a great tree.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Okay, Arya.
Alive. There's no way they're going to kill her.
I think Arya will live because I think Sansa will die. I don't think both of them are going to make it out. All right, Jaime.
Dead.
Dead, yeah. Cersei. Dead.
Dead.
The Night King.
Oh, that thing gotta die.
Yeah. He ends up being the king of Westeros. He just kills everyone.
Yeah, he wins the game.
You know what? There you go. There's your George R. R. Martin ending. Is the Night King just stomps everybody? Wins.
Show ends with the Night King walking into King's Landing and sitting on the throne.
And all the Starks are
and he just goes like this.
He turns them all, and they're all now his servants. Okay, let's see. Who else am I forgetting? Brienne of Tarth.
The Hound. Brienne, I think...
Dead.
She's going to die, but Tormund's going to be holding her as she dies.
And Tormund will die, too.
And then Tormund's going to die.
All right, Tyrion, the last big main character. Tyrion Lannister. We haven't actually talked a lot about Tyrion. Tyrion didn't get... He had some good
he
moments,
didn't
but
get
he didn't really get much of an arc this season. He was
he
just
got
kind of there to provide.
and he mostly got scolded by everybody.
Yeah, he was
Like
kind of
everybody kind of gave him like the
he got the business end of the
fucking
shit
third
stick.
degree.
Yeah, he definitely.
Staney was kind of a dick to him. Cersei was a dick to him. Even Jaime was kind of pissed off to see him. Braun was like a kind of a dick when he saw him. I don't think Tyrion really has like a lot of like people on his side right now.
Oh, I have one more character. Okay, so Tyrion, live or dead?
Alive.
I think he's alive. I think he'll be the last Lannister. One character we didn't really talk a lot about too, but I think could play a big role next season. Gentry Baratheon.
Ooh, I think he's going to live.
I think he's going to live and marry Arya Stark.
That's an interesting one. He's going to become a new lord of the...
Yeah, he's going to bring back the Baratheon name.
Can he, even though he's a bastard?
Well, if Jon's the rightful king, he can legitimize him.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I don't know.
You're
We'll
no
see.
longer a bastard.
And finally, Sam and Gilly. We'll put those two as one character because I think what happens to one will happen to the other.
Sam is going to live because people fucking lose their shit if he dies.
And besides, we said on the show...
And he always stays far enough away to where nothing really is going to happen to him. Except now he's at Winterfell.
And like we said on the show, he is the author of the Song of Fire and Ice. He is writing this story, people. George R. R. Martin. So, and lastly, we'll leave you with this. George R. R. Martin, and you can think about this if you don't have an idea. Well, maybe we'll come back to it after our summer break here. George R. R. Martin has said, well, the writers of the show have said that George R. R. Martin has one more jaw-dropping, hold-the-door moment on the show. What do you think that is?
Hold the door moment? Oh my god, that's...
So I'll go first. I think it's going to be that Bran is the Lord of Light and that he put everything into motion. And that we're going to find out that the Targaryens were actually the good guys and that Robert's rebellion, we already know it was built on a lie, but we're going to find out that they are actually, the Lannisters were behind the whole thing and they're the true villains of the show. And that Bran and his trying to stop it put it all into motion.
I don't know if that's a hold the door kind of moment.
Well, maybe not because we know time travel exists now, but I think no one's talking about the Lord of Light thing, so that's why I think it could be like a holy shit. Maybe Daenerys gets turned into the Ice Queen.
Jaime is going to save Tyrion somewhere. Like, even though he's pissed at his brother for what he did, he's gonna like sacrifice himself.
Yeah, that's true. Well, a lot of people speculate that Jaime's the prince that was promised.
That's an interesting one. He's the one that's going to beat the Night King?
That would be a twist. I wouldn't say it's a jaw-dropping moment. I can't say jaw-dropping moment. But
a jaw-dropping.
It would definitely be an unexpected moment. If Jaime was the one.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Jon's about to die and Jaime actually saves him and he's the one who kills him.
I don't know. I'm trying to think because we got to figure out like why he says Hodor.
Could Jaime be the one? Could he stab the Night King in the back just like he killed the king? Wouldn't that be sweet?
I don't know if that's jaw dropping. That'd be more like fist pumping.
Yeah, but then he gets stabbed by the Night King immediately.
Yeah, they stab each other.
Be cool. We've done before. I don't know. Well, since you don't have an answer right off the bat, you hear my answer. Everyone, we would love to hear what you believe that is the last jaw-dropping moment on this series that we'll be getting next season. And like I said, we'll be talking everything Game of Thrones next time this thing airs, and we want to have a name for the show by then. If you come up with a cool name for our show, we will give you full credit.
Yes, which includes gold star stickers. And a high five.
And to be fair, in 2 years when Game of Thrones Season 8 airs, we are going to be a nationally syndicated show. So full credit could mean a lot more than it does right now, everybody.
Yeah. I mean, that could mean we send you, a bouquet of flowers.
That means we take you to the premiere of Season 8.
Yeah. At our brand new theater that we built that's attached to our office.
Yes. All right, man. You got anything else before we get the hell out of here?
No, I think we should just we rambled enough. I think we covered 99% of the stuff that we wanted to talk about.
All right. Well, everyone, before we get out of here, Ryan would like to tell you all where you can find us.
You guys can find us at Geek Dad Report on Twitter, and Brian is Brian153, and I'm Big Boozer. We are on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, and Podhell Media. You can find us at Geek Dad Report on all of those things. Just type in Geek Dad Report, you will find us. Leave us a comment, give us a 5-star rating, like us, subscribe to us,
and share the shit out of this video.
Yes, and do all the kindly things that you do when you enjoy things, because it makes other people want to come, and then when everybody is doing that, I didn't want to go into a bad...
Well, okay, before Ryan loses it, it's real late where he's at. I would like to thank everybody. Our Game of Thrones segment that we just started this year has been one of our most popular things we've done so far. You guys have been great. The interaction we've got with people over this has been spectacular. So thank you, everybody, for watching all, 8 episodes, 9 episodes, or how many we did.
All these 8 episodes have done more than everything else combined.
Lies. Everything we do is successful, but
yes,
these have been great. So thank you, everyone, for being part of it. And we promise we will be back for Season 8 of Game of Thrones. Until then,
try not to stab your family member and burn them with dragons.
Yeah, was it Vakari? Vakari.
Yeah. And
everyone
dress up as Game of Thrones.
For all of you.
Ow!
And all right. On that note, from Geek Dad Report,
get the fuck out.
We say stay awesome, everybody. Later.
Watch more TV.